Matthew Allen, and we have Dustin Thomas. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone. So I really wanted to talk, this is Castle Rock Season 2 because it seems like there's going to be a little bit of a same world but different story going on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Season 2 is the story of Annie Wilkes, who people sometimes know from the movie or the book Misery, crashing into Castle Rock, and a lot of crazy stuff happens as a result.
And Lizzie, what is it like to play this character? Because I was reading from the book, and then we've also had the movie with Kathy Bates. So how is it to have your take on this character in this role?
Well, it was a pretty scary proposition, trying to take on something so iconic and perfectly done as Kathy Bates' performance. But our story tells a very different side of Annie. In the movie and in the book Misery, she's very isolated from everybody at that point. Our Annie is still like moving through the world. She's got this daughter Joy, so you're gonna see hopefully some familiar shades of that Annie Wilkes, but she's up to all kinds of new stuff.
And speaking of the family, let's talk to Elsie about Joy. What's it like playing this character as the daughter of this character that could go through some changes throughout the season here?
I mean, it was a very daunting task to be like, so Annie Wilkes is your mom. And, you know, the fact that we don't see Joy in Misery, but I love it. I specifically didn't reread or rewatch Misery because that's just not the Annie that Joy knows. Like, they have a very loving and kind relationship. I just think Annie has a few struggles. But it was a really smooth transition for me from doing something like 8th grade because I think my character there shows, yeah, woo, indies, woo. No, but I think Joy and Kayla share a lot of similar qualities. But it's fun to watch Joy develop a little more.
Well, while we're going into characters, let's keep going down the line here. Rakan and Yusara as Abdi and Nadia Omar. Can you tell us a little bit about your characters and what we can expect from them?
Yes, so I play Dr. Nadia Howelberg, and I think that translates, correct me if I'm wrong, as the doer of things. And she's a doctor, and I think she uses her rationality, is that right, Dusty, to deal with the strange things that happen in Stephen King's world of Castle Rock.
Nadia is kind of the sane one of this season, and among a sea of insanity, she's kind of the sane one.
And they were like displaced, right, through conflict, so they find themselves adopted by Pop Mebble, and they become part of Castle Rock and this town.
We always need a little bit of sanity mixed in with the insanity.
Just a little bit.
So yeah.
I play Abdi Howelberg, her brother, not a doctor, and I take on Meryl's ways on the crime life, and gonna have a little war with my stepbrother here, Ace.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So yeah, tell us about John Ace and Chris Merrill.
So I play Ace Merrill, who you may know from Stand By Me. That was the Kiefer Sutherland character. I just try to do an exact mimicry of like what he did, but many years later. He's ethically challenged, and he is trying to take over the business in town. And his brother, Chris
is probably the more well-intentioned brother. He means well. He's kind of anchored to the town by his family and his loyalty. But because they are so opposite, you'll see them, up and down throughout the season in different ways.
So what is it like for both creating and for performing in this to be working in the world of Stephen King as opposed to just doing an adaptation of one book or one story?
There are probably a few people out there who've read some Stephen King books in this audience, I would imagine, and seen some Stephen King movies. And so, I think first coming to it as a fan was the place that I came to doing the series and making sure that Stephen was happy with the choices that we were making was a really important part of that, especially this season when you're doing something like you're taking on characters like Annie or like Ace. It's really important that the guy who created them, I think, believes in what a approach you're taking with them. So that was kind of a really big piece of the puzzle from the beginning, was making sure that Stephen was on board.
And how fun is it to sort of throw in all the different nods and references to the various works in the show?
I mean, what's great is that the whole crew kind of does it. So there are like Easter eggs that even I don't know about until sometimes I'm actually watching the episodes, because they'll build in stuff. There's graffiti. There's all kinds of like little Easter egg references, and I love it when the fans kind of point those out to me, and I haven't even seen them myself.
Now for the cast, you're doing a little bit of horror, suspense, thriller there. Does that stay on the set, or do you start feeling like some creepy vibes just in your life while working on this show? And you're just like, oh my gosh, following me home.
Yeah, well, we shoot the show in rural Massachusetts, and all of us lived in different little towns, and so I think I speak for everybody that we were pretty isolated. So we'd go and shoot the show and then go back to our houses and stare at the walls. And
There was like a tick problem. There was a tick problem that plagued
that was
Lizzie.
by far the scariest thing.
And the tall trees at night.
Lyme disease is
ticks.
real.
Everywhere.
It was a tick explosion.
There's a little black spot on your
We were picking ticks off of ourselves a lot. A lot. Yeah.
So with this show being on Hulu, does it allow you to do some newer, different things that you probably wouldn't see if this was on, say, network TV or cable, or even as a movie? But it's either from creating it or from performing in it, did it feel like it was a different vibe than other places?
I mean, I think one of the great things about having the flexibility of Hulu and the support that they've given us is that, like, Stephen King goes to some pretty crazy places, and it's hard to translate some of that onto like a network television show. And so when you can kind of go to the dark places, and if anything, I would say we're encouraged to kind of go darker and darker with it, and that's really liberating. Like, it's great to never be told that you're supposed to do something more family friendly, because I would say the show is not family friendly.
A bit of a warning before watching. For any of you guys, was there a part of it, without giving any spoilers away, of course, was there a part of it that felt like, wow, this is definitely a different experience or a challenge that I have not seen in our previous works?
Well, I think Nadia and Abdi don't exist in Stephen King's world until now. He didn't pen them, so I suppose it's really interesting trying to create a character that hasn't necessarily got basis or foundation, and I think there's pros and cons to the two. So it's really great to kind of create this character, just knowing where they're from, being displaced from Somalia and find themselves in America. So that was a new experience. And I suppose she finds Castle Rock a very new place, but it's the only place that she knows is home. So just exploring what that feels like and what that looks like was really interesting.
And we were working with Tim Robbins, who for some reason is not here right now.
How did he get out of this?
Tim
Tim and I had a conversation.
Tim likes to walk the floor.
Yeah, he's behind you like a
Yeah, he's walking around with the Spider-Man mask on. With the first day we worked together, I looked over at him and I said, Tim, so how is this? What do you think about all this? And he said, this is pretty cool. And I think that that's very much how it feels to be on this show. It's like cool to be a part of the Stephen King world and the history of all these characters, to get to play them, to get to do that. It's cool.
Well, we got to do a little lightning fire right now, right across the board. Biggest fear. What is your biggest fear?
Ticks.
All right, ticks.
That these supernatural things are actually real.
things crawling in my ears and orifices.
So more ticks.
More ticks, but also anything that is small enough to fit my ears. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, but that's a tick. Snakes for me.
Being eaten alive by like a creature.
Yes.
He's not scared of
He's
it.
not scared.
You're not afraid of anything.
He's not scared.
Fearless.
I am. It's just that I'm mine right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you talking about this. Castle Rock, make sure you can check it out on Hulu.
Thanks, everyone.
And coming up next, we have the cast of The Expanse. So make sure you stay tuned right here for more we got covered here at New York Comic Con.